LaTB, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the LaTB podcast.
Welcome back to LaTB MMA podcast. As always, I'm your host with the best co-hostess, getting a hoagie down the gullet. We got Cheney living it up over here on the podcast. It was such a fun-filled weekend. We made so much money. She's reaping the benefits as we speak. To this day, making money off of the last fight card that we had that weekend being off of the chain. If you haven't heard, it's at Fight to the Round Table. We meet up with people and talk about the star-studded event we had with Sandhagen knocking out Marias, but of course, the kick that was heard around the world, Joaquin Buckley knocking the living daylights out of Kisangane there, turning into one of the most viral clips that the UFC has ever had. So, history-making event. How did you do over the weekend?
I think I went 8 of whatever the amount was, 8 of 11, 8 of 12. I don't know how many exactly there were.
Right.
I really enjoyed the weekend, though. I thought the fights were amazing. Even the Buckley kick you were just talking about. If Kasong, or what's his name? Impa. If Impa was a walkthrough fight, it might have been whatever. But Impa, no one considered a walkthrough. People were liking his trajectory in the UFC. So the kick was just so once in a lifetime. It was so once in a lifetime. As long as I've been watching UFC, it's become my more favorite knockout the more I've thought about it.
Since you've been watching, since I've been watching, I've never seen a kick like that. So, well, all of us, nobody has seen a kick like that in MMA yet. But I feel like this is the Anderson Silva Showtime kick. Well, 2 different kicks, but the straight up the center that's Master Steven Seagal showed Anderson Silva, or that Showtime kick. It was just the first time we saw it. Now that people know that it's actually effective, you could see a Yair Rodriguez landing something like that easy. He's that type of fighter. He has that type of explosiveness. So I think it just opened the door to a different technique. Calf kicks were nothing 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Now, if you're not throwing a calf kick, you're considered a simpleton as far as being at that next level.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I don't know if it's going to be something that everybody starts to train. Like, when you get your foot caught, but I definitely...
Right. Zach Cummins is never throwing that.
It definitely, though, changes. There is an option now that wasn't there before. It's like when Tony Hawk did the 900. It's like, it just, and who knows what that jumping kick flip or whatever, that kind of thing, what was that, spinning heel kick? I don't know what that kick was.
It was a Taekwondo kick, spinning heel, spinning back kick, some will call it, after the catch. So the name will come about soon enough, but I believe it's a very Taekwondo style type of a kick.
What else? It was a good enough fight that we saved the huge recap for Fights at the Round Table. But what else were some of your favorite parts?
I mean, my favorites, minus 240 Dacus that I had a big underdog play on. That guy made my entire night. Not only that, was hesitant to pull the trigger, but should have on Buckley. Evil Twin, who we didn't have on the show, was all over Buckley. But I ended up going 9 of 11, only placing 70th on Tapology in the world. So ended up doing all right. Got a couple perfects. Again, that Dacus play being one of those big ones. What was another heavy one that worked out in our favor? There were so many. I mean, it was the decisions at the beginning of the fight card were entertaining fight of the night potentials, and then it just got better as it went. And that opened up with decisions. I mean, go back and watch that. I can't even think of the name of those 2 gentlemen. I just remember it was a badass fight. Tahuri came in and made a huge showing. Tapuri, who we were talking about, saying he looked good on the ground against the law. That hell of a match as well. Really fun ground game we had going in there. As far as other specific bouts, knockouts, knockdowns, how many more were there? There was like 3 others that I can't even think of. I mean, Dacus would have got the knockout of the night as a couple other guys, but you got to give it to Buckley. All of those $200,000 they're talking about. Well, Sandhagen is the other one that was a spinning heel kick. That would have been a highlight of the night. Any other time, that would have been performance of the night, highlighted knockout of the night. Sandhagen would have won all the money, but Buckley stole the entire show. Duplessis came out and face planted Perez in the first round. That was a fairly good, a little favorite there. Aspinall got it done against the 205er. Breeze finishing Boulard. Should have laid a little heavier on the tape. As I was saying, Boulard kept his hands low, and first punch knocked the biggest booger you ever seen out of Boulard's mouth. You thought it was his brain slug.
It was a freaking great fight night. I loved it.
Those are all first round KOs. Then the Dacus, Buckley, Kelly fight was on fire. Omar Jagazzi was boring, as was Cortez Eager. But Ulanbekov versus Silva, the calf kicks in that. Oh, Jesus. If you ever want to, just like that guy's going to feel it for a good 2-3 weeks. Like, that is such an unbelievable amount of pain that he suffered and got through for Ulanbekov. So Tajir's going to be looking good, as we were saying earlier on, at 125 as he moves on with his career.
What's your favorite flavor of Gatorade?
Orange.
Yeah, keep it simple. I'm a lemon lime, but I don't think orange would be far off.
If it's not orange, it's lemon lime, and then it's the fruit punch, and then I try to stay to the blues every once in a while. The pepino flavor, that's where you get if it's hot out, get that pepino flavor, get that the cucumber. That'll change your life. That'll change the game.
Yeah, it's almost like the fruit punch is a little too sweet for when it's really hot out.
Too sweet. Yeah, exactly. That's why
you gotta cut that.
Lemon.
Yeah, there is some other fun UFC. So did you see that Dana White offered Khabib all this money to do the Tough House against Conor McGregor? And Khabib was like, I would not do it for
billion, brother.
It made me like Khabib. I love principle. I love somebody by their principle. He's like, I can't see that guy ever even get in a fight with me again. And I love it. I love just somebody that they're like, I don't care about your money.
Well, that's exactly it. Is the main reason I gathered from those interviews was Khabib just does not want to give Conor any type of exposure at all. He doesn't want his name in with his headline. It's not worth it. It's more than that. Don't like the 2 more fights type of talks, because that really limits the fun amount of fighters coming up and coming for that belt. So, as soon as anybody, which we're going to definitely talk about later on in the night, starts talking about retirement, that's a big red flag for me regardless. So the only person who's stayed away from that has been GSP, and he's been the unicorn the entire sport, essentially.
I really love Justin Gaethje's chances, though, regardless, against Khabib.
Totally agree with that. It's such a different fight from where it was a few years ago. And the entire divisions, all of them, for what they're worth. And the fact that Michael Chandler is a standby for that is such a slap in the face to every top 10 UFC fighter. A Bellator fighter is going to come be the stand-in. Despicable. Absolutely despicable. He comes in from Bellator and gets to fight the number 1 guy, where Leon Edwards is still turning down fights left and right. Everyone else is
I like when Khabib in the long interview said they asked about Tony's double weight cut, and he said, I like Tony Ferguson, but he's stupid guy. And it's like when you re-listen to everything Khabib ever has said, he is a soothsayer.
Honest.
Yeah, he's super honest. Even when you watch him in the chatter against Max Holloway when they almost were going to fight when Max came from Hawaii on that short notice, he actually laughs at Max Holloway. Everybody loves Blessed. I don't know.
Right.
I like Khabib.
Absolutely.
I've changed my song. I like Khabib.
Definitely, he seems like a fairly stand-up guy. From anything anyone says, you just don't cross his boys. That's it. You keep them boys in line. But Khabib definitely gonna be in the Hall of Fame. No way, ifs, ands, or buts, with the doors he's opening into Dagestan. And now that we're seeing all the Dagi fighters came after Khabib, he was the first, and arguably, some people are saying with all the young kids, especially now with the exposure, he's gonna be remembered as like the Royce Gracie, where it's like 10, 15 years from now, that guy isn't going to be able to do shit to but that's the whole sport, and that's what we're loving. That's why we love this. It's going to be such a fun game. So what else went on in the MMA Twitterverse universe going on is, I mean, a lot of fight conjecture.
Yeah, there's the Nick Diaz, because people are saying that Dustin Poirier is going to fight Conor.
For $500,000, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Sign the contract. Just fight. We said it on the fights. Just fight. It doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it. Yeah, you can keep talking and promote your new whiskey that's going to be dropping at the same time you say you retire. Like, we've seen this.
What about Nate Diaz tweeting at Israel Adesanya? I think your boy really is the best 155er or something. And
who do you mean by your boy?
Dan Hooker.
Dan Hooker. Oh, okay.
And,
okay. But he couldn't get through Poirier, so
then Dan Hooker tweeted.
Diaz had the win over Poirier as well, apparently.
So then Dan Hooker tweeted back and said, "So what you want to do, 170 or 155?" And Diaz tweeted back at him 165. So that's a fun fight.
We've been saying that for years here at LaTB. Give me a 165. Give me a 175. Give me a 170.
Nate does whatever he wants. Nate does whatever the fuck Nate wants.
BM created the BMF belt for a reason. That was him just saying, hey, me and Jorge Masvidal BMF belt. Okay, one and done. So he sells whatever he wants, and he'll get his way eventually. It's fade spots for me left and right. So that's if it's, but Nate is not going to fight just anyone, and that's the thing that sucks, because again, it's only going to be for money.
But I kind of like the Dan Hooker, Nate being slick enough to realize that even though Dan Hooker is not a huge name in America, he's a big name on Australia and New Zealand. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I think game recognizes game. I kind of like both their styles of fights. They're both guys that, both of them, when they're inside the octagon, it's exciting to me. And so I like that Nate Diaz is only calling out fighters that are also other fighters that you're like, yep, every time that guy's in the octagon, I love it.
Well, what about all of the people calling out Chimaev?
Well, I actually heard somebody I can't stand, Chiesa. And I heard Chiesa say that, you know, Chimaev's in a really rough spot, but he should understand that he needs to build his name off the right veteran to get the crawl up to the other ranked dudes, because none of the high ranked dudes want to put everything they've worked for on the line for a guy that has nothing to lose. So it's like, it's not smart business for the guys that are sitting in the top 10 right now. So it really is. Yeah, and so I understood that, but you said, what was the big news with Chimaev?
Neil Magny's the only one willing to take that fight, and he's ranked inside the top 10 right now. So Neil Magny coming out with them big ass huevos, a big old huevos, putting it out there.
Like
good for
fight.
him. Nightmare matchup for Neil Magny. He's always had trouble with guys to get. Look at the Dos Anjos fight. I get to give me a good grappler against Magny, especially with good calf kicks, which Chimaev does not have. It's just that gas tank. Neil Magny has that legendary gas tank, and if it goes into dirty waters, it's a different story. But we'll talk about Chimaev later on. I'm sure. I know there's some cross talent that we had to go back on tape for this 11 card bout that we do have out of Abu Dhabi on Fight Island 6 for all the fans out there. How do you feel in amongst all of these fights that we just keep rolling every single weekend?
It's a lot, but I don't know what I'd do without it. I don't blue pill any other way. I don't watch any other shows. I don't do anything else except fight. So I actually really appreciate it in my life.
I agree.
And watching these kids just watching these kids take the game to another level and another level. If you would have told me 3 years ago the things we'd be watching in UFC today, I don't know. I think it's impressive shit what these kids are doing. Like you were saying with Sandhagen, that no one's even saying gosh, if you take that spinning crazy kick from Buckley out of the night, how impressive was that Sandhagen victory? He he just crumpled
the number
Moraes.
one contender. Number one contender broke his orbital, or supposedly in the fight was like, "Oh, your eyes fucked up, your eyes broken, your eyes broken," and Moraes was like, So, really, really amazing event. A+ night. If you haven't gone back, which I'm sure you have, you watched it, because if you're listening to this, you're an M-Core, you're a Legion diehard for sure, and you're probably just trying to make some cash because, again, we were cashing them fat paychecks over the weekend. It was definitely quadrupling up our stands as far as DraftKings and outside bets going on in there. So this one, unfortunately, doesn't look like it has that
real
type
quick,
of potential.
the cat's out of the bag with the Fight Geist, how we're becoming the Fight Geist. Make sure you follow the Fight Geist everywhere. Make sure you're changing your podcast to the Fight Geist. We're going to start uploading them there at the next UFC 254. Is that the next one or 255? I can't remember. Whatever the next pay-per-view.
Next week,
So
Khabib versus, which we don't even want to talk about that right now. But yeah,
that will start getting uploaded to both places. I also wouldn't mind as the intro if it was kind of like you were walking into the Skull and Bones, like chanting, like Fight Geist, Fight Geist. You know, like monks in robes. I wouldn't mind if that was the intro either.
Okay, I was thinking definitely not that, but yes, I like that. It sounds ominous. I was going extra creepy with it and being like animal heads, naked bodies, that kind of weird stuff. I was like, we're gonna get crazy with it.
Well, no, I was just thinking about an actual intro song over intro look.
Nice.
So I'm not anti your visuals.
Gonna be
I just wasn't there yet.
So, anything left before we get into this fun 11 card bout that we have right before the big pay-per-view coming up next weekend?
Let's do it.
Chan Sung Jung versus Brian Ortega ended up headlining this 11. It was cut down from 12. We just had Cyril Gane coming in against the debuting fighter, dropped earlier today due to visa issues, and they don't have a replacement, so we're not going to get Gane.
Not visa
what was
issues. It's he's still under contract with PFL.
And the PFL usually has a fairly good relationship that they would allow for that to happen. Wow, PFL's really fucking over there, boy. God damn.
He apparently he fought the last one, but they have the option to up his contract for 2 more times. And he just assumed, since the PFL hasn't done anything in the last 6 months, that the PFL, they're not doing anything this year. So he just he wanted to just take this fight. So they were like, whoa. Like, you didn't even hit us up about it or nothing. Like, you're under contract with us. So it was dropped immediately.
That's his bad. They just put him in check. They would have done it if he would have asked. I agree. If he didn't ask, then they're just like, so next time, bro. So you fucking know, like, don't do fucking shitty pool like that. All you got to do is call somebody. Yeah. Call him. Call Tyrone when you feeling lonely. Call him.
And that's not a good way to come into Papa Dana in the UFC, doing that shit off the first bat.
Yeah, definitely not a good sign there. But that was a big favorite. So unfortunately, we're not going to be making that big bet because there is no replacement, as I'm told. Nobody wants to come in and step in against Cyril in that fight. But you know how we always do. We start from the bottom to the top, and it's going to start down at 135 pounds with said Nurmagomedov coming in against Mark Striegel. This is another Nurmagomedov cousin. We just saw Ulanbekov last weekend. This one's actually by blood. We know what we're getting with said in here. Coming in and last losing to Hani Barcelos in a decision is actually a really solid testament to his grappling, going back and watching in the striking. I mean, put in gnarly spots that a lot of other guys would succumb to, would probably give up the submission in here. And said, even though he started to lose that fight, never gave up. So really love that Dagestani heart in there. We know that he's been training with Khabib over in Makashkala, Russia out there. done. So their whole crew, they had Ulanbekov earlier. Now they have said they got Habib next. I mean, they're going to be firing on all cylinders out of this camp. And Mark Striegel came into the UFC. He was going to have a bout before this, I believe, in the UFC, but fell out a week before due to COVID type of issues. He's getting another clearance back in. A Filipino fighter, 18-2, is debuting in the UFC, last winning off of a low blow to Shinichi Shimizu, the 32-20 fighter, and 11 draws on that guy's career. But either way, Striegel was beating this undersized opponent, him in the nuts, and instead of getting disqualified or making it a no contest, the URCC organization was like, nah, bro, you lose because you're just too much of a bitch, even though he kicked the living daylights out of your balls. So Striegel just being propped up in the Philippines here, having very limited competition at times, 5-1, 0-0. I mean, some of those guys 6-9. Some of these guys are as round as I am, with less grappling credentials, by far less striking. Striegel is really fit, really cuts down to weight, and is really big for that. But he tends to be a submission guy. His striking's good. He throws a lot of taekwondo kicks. He's a submission taekwondo guy, but his kicks are very fluttery. And once he gets to the ground, even against low-level guys, he gets worked on a bit. The submissions come against these taxi cab drivers and concession stand workers, but against a Dagestani Nurmagomedov, Hani Barcelos can't submit you. Striegel has no chance. I actually have a submission round number 3 for Said, because after the first round, Striegel really starts to slow down as well a lot. I think he's completely outmatched here, and I actually don't like Striegel moving forward in the UFC. I think he's very limited at 32 years old as far as his potential, and he's more of a submission guy. I just didn't like what I saw. This, we tell you guys to stay away, but I'm really comfortable, even though I don't like the minus 410. I do think that even the -2 is more than comfortable for Saeed. It's whether it goes decision or finishes is going to be the bigger question, but I do think he's a live play throughout the night, because it is one of the bigger mismatches of the entire night for me. Who do you think you're going to be taking in this first fight of the night?
I'm going to go with, I think it's a setup fight for Nurmagomedov, just to build whatever kind of name that he wants, start out hot in Abu Dhabi. But I just think by decision. I don't think it's going to be crazy. I think 30-27, he wins all of the rounds pretty comfortably. So, yeah, I'm probably going to stay away from it. Just I don't see him laying a lot of hands. I see him getting some takedowns, but just kind of holding him there. So I don't see it being super high scoring for how much of the differential seems to be. He's so heavy favorited. I imagine him to be like 9-4 or something in DraftKings. So I probably won't go heavy on him.
It is going to be up there. You're absolutely right on that. 9,200 for Nurmagomedov, the -410 favorite, against Striegel's 7,000 even. If there's a play, it's only going to be Nurmagomedov. He averages 67 points. LaTB rule, usually stay away from these, but I do think that Nurmagomedov can style a lot of points. He has to get over 90 to even be close to touch that score. So I think you're right. Probably should stay away, but I'm going to probably be in that 10% range of Said in there, just because he has the more likely potential to be able to finish this bout in more routes. So that's one that we spent definitely too much time on. Then we go to a 205 pounds where we have returning Max Grishin coming in against long reigning a perfect 0-3 in the UFC, Gazmir Antigulov. Antigulov actually winning a couple fights in the UFC over De Lima and Christensen, but then losing his last 3 to Ian Kutalaba, Omlienchuk, and Paul Craig. The 20-7 fighter, Antigulov, is a kind of a one-round machine. Most of his fights that he finished prior to the UFC was against journeymen as well, bums, and he was able to knock them out in the first or second round, and or submit them after he hurt them. And once he gets pushed after that first round in the UFC, every single time Antigulov goes down like a sack of bricks. If not, is submittable that we've seen just on the ground, him be able to be overcome by Paul Craig in that triangle choke. But also the Russian Makhachkala fighter is one of these guys that the stereotype of having a doctored birth certificate fits every single mold. Everyone's going to talk about it. Even managers of this former guy are like, this bitch is 38. This motherfucker's 39 years old. There is no way he's 33 years old. He bought his passports 12 years ago so he could get into the States. And, it's just, he definitely does not look his age. 33 just doesn't fit it. Max Grishin at 36 by far looks like a lot less worn of a fighter. And Antigulov having multiple knee issues just off the top of my head as well. But here, Grishin at 36-year-old supposedly is the older fighter. He came in and lost his debut in the UFC to Tybura in a decision. He moved up from 205 on short notice to take that fight, and the bigger heavyweight just ground him out on the cage, really turned it into a sloppy, boring fight after that first round. But Tybura showed us against all of his opponents that he will let you tee off on his head, and if he doesn't go down, you're going to be gassed. I mean, Rothwell threw 150 punches in the first round, couldn't get Tybura out of there and gassed for the next 2 rounds. So not that bad of a loss for Grishin looking back at that. But stylistically here, the gas tank of Antigulov is by far worse. He just completely falls apart and almost looks scared to engage after that first round, where Grishin got outground, but he's still trying to throw big bombs, has a good leg attack as well. On the ground, they're going to be formidable opponents. But I have Grishin TKO round number 1. I'm going to move that to round number 2 because I think they're both going to wear on each other a little bit. Moving it back to 1. I just hate Antigulov's chin. I hate his gas tank. I hate his age. I hate his fake knee. It's just a big fade on Antigulov. He's going to go on his 4th loss in the UNC, probably out of here, unless they try to set him up with another 205er just to stack up his record. Because I know the UFC did like Grishin coming into the here. Who do you like in this bout?
I don't know. I think it's weird that Grishin, his last fight, why he weighed in at 223 because he was fighting a heavyweight, and so now this is his, and so his more natural weight coming down. I'm just not a huge fan of him. I don't know what he's done yet. Marcin Tybura, he kind of looked great his last fight, but he's been whatever. Of all of Antigulov's last fights are against guys that are the top of the division. So I'm going to give it to Antigulov here by a nasty, boring decision. I think he can do enough to eke it out. I know he's a heavy underdog, but it's Oleichikaz and Kutalaba for all. Kutalaba is the worst of the 3, maybe Paul Craig. I would probably have Paul Craig in that fight.
Oleichik just lost 4 in a row.
I still like him as a fighter. I think I'd have him to beat Grishin. But yeah, I just don't know what Grishin's really done in the UFC, so I'm going to stick with what I know. I don't like this fight. I'm going to stay far away from it, but I'm going to pick a weird underdog here. Give me Antigulov, the natural guy.
Super weird fight you're picking here. Absolutely gross. But I like it. I like what you're saying. I mean, this is something on an unproven fighter who got worked as well by Tybura in his last fight. This is definitely one that I'm not going to have exposure to both sides, but I do think I'm going to have exposure to this fight because I like Grishin in that TKO round number 1. You think it's going to go to decision? You think it's going to turn into a ultra sloppy one?
Boring.
I
don't know what Grishin I don't know what his gas tank's going to be like down at his natural weight of 205. It looked okay against Tybura, but he was walking in at his natural weight, so he didn't have to cut anything. Antigulov has nothing or everything to lose. I think it's his last one. So right now, I'm going to stick with the Russians. Oh, I guess Grishin's a Russian too.
That he is coming out of the what region here? Was it also? It was a great old school Russia, but Kachkala fighter over here with Antigulov.
Gosh, he seems so big. He does seem like he could knock him out in 1 round.
On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the big favorite, Grishin, 9,100 against Antigulov's 7,100. Average points for Grishin, 9, because he's only had 1 fight in the UFC. Antigulov average 46 points. So I'm staying on Grishin. It's going to be in that 20% range, because I do think that if this fight ends, it'll be for Grishin. I like what you're saying with the decision. If it turns into a decision, Antigula's got a shot, but that's garbage DraftKings points if he does, because it'll be a slop fest by that point. As far as gassed out arms is all I'm thinking. Absolutely heavy breathing. So then we have a much more formidable matchup, a much closer lined matchup at 155 pounds, where you have returning Fairs Siam coming in against Jamie Malarkey. Malarkey coming in with a 12-3 record, losing his debut in the UFC against Brad Riddell in a decision a year ago, where Malarkey took a beating of a lifetime, but showed the level of heart that needs to be in the UFC. A lot of lesser men will fold under Brad Riddell, whatever you want to call him there, but Malarkey took every shot. Malarkey took a shot off of his knees at the end and was just like, all right, you got me. But I mean, you could hit that guy with a freaking kitchen sink and it feels like Malarkey's just going to stay in there and be in that fight. Definitely showing a great gas tank, even though he got gassed his last fight. Now that he's taken a year off from that beating, I really like that amount of time off for the 26-year-old. He's at that age and he's young enough in his career that we can see humongous leaps and bounds in his career. As for I can say that for the 23-year-old, but I feel like the bigger distance that needs to be crossed in these guys' career is Ziam. Ziam Fairs here, the smile killer, it just has a lot less to work with. His gas tank is a lot worse. His grappling isn't as good. When you can push him up against the cage, he definitely doesn't look good at all. Against Don Magic Man Madge a year ago, he just got ground out in a decision. Really boring type of stalemate. The striking, Zane comes in with a little bit of power, some good spinning kicks and whatnot. But it's not something that he's going to be able to come out in the UFC and I feel like really capitalize on when these guys are all working. If Riddell can't knock you out, I don't think Zim had anything better. And especially if Malarkey chooses to get this to the ground, I feel like he can really have a big advantage and just grind out a decision, the gas tank being a big advantage here for Malarkey. But these guys are super young. I'm going to hedge it with Malarkey. This is a close fight, -130 favorite right here. I got a decision. This is going to be a lower output fight. I don't think I have to spend any money here. I think I just get to watch this one and watch two young guys kind of get another bout under their belt. Who do you think you're going to be taking out of these two young fighters?
I don't know what it is, but the smile killer, there's something about his character that I like. I always just want to go with him because I think he's exciting to watch. He seems kind of like he has a fun ego or something inside the octagon and at weigh-ins. Brad Riddle, what do I think of him? And Don Madge, what do I know of him? Nothing. Australia. Yeah, I know, not too much. So yeah, I'm going to go with another underdog here. I'm going to go with a submission round 3 for the smile killer for us. I am.
Wow, no dog. I like your style. Definitely living on the edge here. Plus 110 for Fars Zame, the smile killer. On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the slight favorite -130. Jamie Malarkey, 8,300 against Zame's 7,900. Do you think you're going to be playing any DraftKings with Zame here at 7,900?
Maybe on one or two. I don't know how heavy I'm going to go in the night. I haven't been doing great on DraftKings. I'll have to see how exciting I get toward the top of the night. Because I just feel like, I don't know, my picks haven't been bad. We've been like picking some underdogs that have really been coming through for us. So I just feel, I don't know yet. It's too early.
I agree with you. I'm not going to go heavy on this night as well. I feel like, especially with the pay-per-view around the corner and after a big night that we just had, I'm going to lay off on a lot of the bets. These are really lined appropriately, where last weekend wasn't as much. I feel like we even have better spots moving on in the week. So you're right. I'm going to be in that 10-card max type of lineup, maybe 12 to 13, but very low card output. The lines are close. There's decisions on the way throughout the night. So Yes, be moderate as far as it's concerned. I like Malarkey here. I think for 8-3 he can pull off like a 670, 60-point win, which at 8,300 isn't going to pay it off, but I do think I can get a 30-27, 29-28 type of a decision out of him. What you're saying with Zane, he is the more flashy fighter. You're absolutely right with that. If there's a flash knockout or a flash submission, Zame's going to be the benefit factor of that, where Malarkey's much more of that grinding decision type of a fighter, as far as I'm concerned. But maybe we get into much more of a knockout potential at 185 pounds, where we come in and against Jung Young Park, coming in against John Phillips, the white Mike Tyson, formerly known, now the Welsh Wrecking Machine. UFC made him change that name because, cultural appropriation, I guess.
I was gonna wait to see what it was gonna be. I was like, why 9/11?
So I remember him as the white Mike Tyson, and that's all I can think of. But that's because he can punch at 22-10, coming off of a loss to Chimaev prior to that, beating Alan Amadovsky, but losing 3 in a row prior to that to Holland, Bird, and Marshman. The same reason to pick Chimaev, and I'm going to pick a lot of other people against John Phillips, is the lack of takedown defense, and then the lack of ground game to back up that lack of takedown defense. He can't even get back to his knees most of the time against. I mean, Chimaev is one thing. We saw that coming, told you guys, hey, this kid's going to be something nasty, especially against a no ground game guy like Phillips. But if you're watching any type of tape, you realize anybody that's beating John Phillips doesn't stand in front of him in box, because he's a power puncher, takes him to the ground. And once you're there, you can kind of just sit in position, if not get it ground and pound TKO or submission. But with that, I will say, got to give credit where credit is due, where John Phillips was the fighter to land the most amount of strikes of anybody in the UFC against Chimaev, with a whopping 2 strikes. That
wow.
is 200% more.
That's crazy.
Than who was it? The other guy and freaking Mearshart. So nobody was able to land. Well, 2 other opponents were not able to land any strikes. Phillips got 2 off of the ground. He threw 2 rapid punches back behind him, and they counted them. That's it. So Phillips putting in the work in the UFC, but again, that ground game lacking. And against Park, the 11-4 fighter, a big favorite here, coming in against the win against Barriault. Prior to that, losing to Anthony Hernandez in a submission. Fluffy's only win in the UFC. Prior to that, beating some other regional South Korean scene guys. Park showing a great chin on the regional scene, good boxing, where the fight here, if it was a clear boxing match and not MMA, I would have to bet against Park. But the fact that he actually shoots 1 to 3 takedowns within a fight, and has done that since the regional scene, once Park feels a little bit of that power, he's a guy who likes to go to his wrestling. He won't necessarily finish or have a big submission potential, but he goes for that position over submission, and that's all you need against Phillips. So it's kind of like a tailor-made fight for Park. I feel like Phillips is just one of these guys that randomly, when the stupid enough of opponent decides to want to bang with him in the pocket, Phillips will be able to get that win. If anybody else in there is like, oh, wait, we have takedowns in these, then it's a fight that Phillips is more than likely going to lose. So I got actually a TKO round number 2, Park, but I think I'm moving that more to decision. I think it's going to be, as I'm saying, position over submission now that I'm talking about it. I do think that it's just going to be 3 takedowns, 4 takedowns throughout the entire fight. A very boring type of decision, but give me the -255 favorite here. Siding with a lot of chalk, but that's why I'm not going to be betting this fight card heavy, because it's too chalky for me. There's too many favorites that have the right path to victory. Who do you think you're going to be taking out of these 2 85ers?
I just think this is a fight that I see. If you're going to stand and bang with John Phillips, you're going to get knocked out. I don't really love Park. His record doesn't show of recent that he's a chinny guy, but I kind of see him that way. And I think if you stand with a guy with huge looping punches, I feel like John Phillips has gotten better as a fighter. And unfortunately for him, we didn't get to see any of it in that last fight because he was going against the wrecking ball. But yeah, I'm going to go with another underdog. I'm going to go with a round 1 knockout for John Phillips.
I love it. That's absolute. Well, if you're going to go with Phillips, you got to go by TKO, which the prop line's going to be, I guess not, because the bettors are going to, or the handicappers are going to realize that Phillips' only shot's going to be by TKO, but it's got to be under that 2.5 if you want to make that bet. As far as that comes as a bet, I might go under that. Even though I got a decision, but if you're liking Phillips, there it is. On DraftKings, Park is 8,800 as a minus 250 favorite against Phillips, 7,400. Do you think you're going to be playing Phillips at 7-4? Because if he gets a TKO round number 1, that's 100 points, right? That's money.
Right now I have so many underdogs. I feel like, geez. I'm just gonna go with it. Maybe I'm just gonna keep going for the night. Let's see how weird it gets.
So I'm gonna actually probably stay away from this fight as far as DraftKings. I feel like low scorer. I got a decision. I'll take a stab at 7-4. If I need salary relief, I could put Phillips in there on 1 or 2 cards, just to allow that. Because if Phillips gets that knockout and you have 4 other big guys that you like, it's going to be in that top 10%. You're going to be in that top 10.
You're right. Like a higher chance of points. Yeah.
Right. He has that first knockout potential, but that's pretty much it after that first round if those takedowns come about. So it's gambling for a reason. I mean, it's fun. You got to do what you got to do. And on some of these nights that we're talking about this, Chuck, these are the options we're giving you here. This is why we're talking about it. We're like, all right, it might not likely happen, but there's a window. There is a back window open. The Exorcist demon gets in somehow. It weasels its way in. There's always a way. So another bout that you're going to have to exercise in the afternoon if you're watching some of that Instagram game. We got Port St. Lucie's own 125-pounder Jillian Roberts coming in against Paulina Botello in here. Jillian Roberts living that beach life, making you have them cold sweats in the middle of the night, and we ain't even talking about her fights. She is definitely a Florida native coming from Canada, but growing up over in the southern Florida region, but being at American Top Team for a long time now, being with Dean Lister for since she was 16 years old, has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Her striking has definitely been her weakest avenue as far as a fight, but it's gotten better. The things that really always stand out for Jillian Roberts is off of her back, she's definitely a demon, and on top, she's much better, and she's kind of a one-trick pony. I want to say what Mackenzie Dern is expected to be is what Jillian Roberts is, where Mackenzie Dern actually has a heavy overhand right. Jillian Roberts is fairly pillow-fisted. Her striking has definitely been her worst aspect, and I love me some Jillian Roberts, but she definitely can be out. When she gets up to the higher levels, that's where she has a lot of problems, is not being able to get the takedowns, not being able to shoot properly, or just drive on those takedowns. At 25 years old, she's making leaps and bounds in that, but still, just what we've seen before, Jillian Roberts at times has issues when the fights get going into the later rounds. Who was it? Eddie Alvarez said it best. He's like, when you push her, she tends to quit. And unfortunately, I feel like Eddie cursed Roberts with that because she heard it as well. And as a person, you take that and it plants a seed in you. And Roberts is young enough to get over that, but it is just one of the aspects that has happened. But here against Botello, we don't have to worry about much of that. Botello tends to be a striker on the ground. She's definitely a fish out of water. She is 8-2. She's only lost in the UFC to Cavillo, came back and beat Lauren Mueller in a decision using that takedown defense to keep it striking, beating Kondo as well in a TKO, who was a nothing in the UFC, also beating Pearl Gonzalez in a decision. Botello has the option of being able to drag it into the later rounds by having, I guess it's in the 40-50% range. I know I can gather that actually right now. Takedown defense, but I do think that Roberts has definitely turned a corner as far as not wanting to be a striker. She doesn't want to throw that overhand right. Roberts has really started to work on that outside trip takedown, which I'm always a fan of, especially in the lighter weight classes, because it's mechanics. You trap that knee, and it doesn't matter. You're going to go down in there. But the takedown defense here for Botelho is in the 58% range. Shooting on average is going to be takedowns, as far as that's concerned, is going to be 88% takedown defense for Botelho here. So with 100% takedown accuracy against the accuracy of 50% for Roberts, but Roberts wants to get to the ground. So this is WMMA at its finest. I got to back Port St. Lucie zone. You know me. I got a soft spot for these girls living up on the Treasure Coast, getting down and dirty with all them Instagram photos. I think Roberts' son does get it to the ground eventually, but I do think she's going to eat a couple hard punches before it gets there. So I'm super tentative on this. I don't like the line. I think it's a little too wide for me. I think 180 would have been much more reasonable. Give me Robertson, but submission round number 2. But Botelho has decision potential written on it. What do you think you're going to be taking at this 125-pound matchup?
I love what you're saying about Robertson is kind of everything that they built up Mackenzie Dern to be. I think she has kind of shown out, and she's the quiet storm working her way through the division. I like that she's moved up to 225 or 125. I think at first she didn't have the strength to kind of deal with the extra 10 pounds, but I do think we're getting to see her add that on. If Botelho's a girl that can be submitted, Jillian Robertson's a girl that can find that submission. So I have Jillian Robertson to finish round 2 submission. I can see her kind of anaconda choking, getting all up on that bitch, wrapping her up. So, yeah, I love it.
So we are agreeing. That means put a bet on it. Round number 2. I'm going to go by submission as well. You know that's going to be plus money in that 300 range for sure. Inside the Distance prop is live as well. Maybe not 2.5 because both of these ladies gas. I think Botelho does a little bit more in that 3rd round. Well, I can't say that. They both gas pretty hard. So I just don't like the price tag for Robertson. I do think it's a little steep here. On DraftKings, you're going to pay $8,700 for Robertson against Botelho's $7,500. On average, Robertson averages 77 points on DraftKings to Botelho's 61. What do you think? Who do you think you're going to be taking on DraftKings here?
I feel like I can afford Jillian everywhere with all my other silly picks.
I agree. I think I'm going to be able to afford her as well at 8,700, and I do have a submission, so she'll get 75 plus all that ground advantage. I think she'll break over 100 points if she gets that finish. I'm going to go in that 20% range, 10% range. Again, super light, so probably it'll turn into 30% as far as Jillian Roberts is concerned. But out of most fights throughout the night, I do think she's more likely out of most opponents to actually get a finish compared to a lot of other bouts throughout the night. So at 155 pounds, we have a disgusting, a dirty, a double, a debut Fight Island special here. We got Graham Kulanzed coming in against Matsu Guramat. The gamer coming in against the 11-2 fighter Graham, Georgianian fighter, beating Felipe Silva TKO 10 months ago. Prior to that, Seneda with guys with 20-5 records. Some competition out here. Saw some tape on Guram here. I mean, Guram looks like a journeyman level guy. Solid takedown or solid cardio, I want to say. Solid takedowns, solid takedown defense, but nothing that really jumps out at you. The power he's been showing has been fairly regional, and it's a lot more of that gas tank, I feel like, showing up more than anything. But Guram didn't really just stick out anywhere for me. There was nothing that really, almost, I want to say, like some of these other Jordanian fighters, even though he's not fighting out of Georgia. I believe he's out of Sweden now. And he is training with Chimaev out of that All-Stars team, actually. But it's a big difference. I mean, Chimaev is Chimaev's, Gustafsson, Renzo Madadi, all those guys are different. Like, what we've seen from Guram here is definitely a down-the-center, serviceable guy everywhere. But at the UFC, I feel like he's doomed to have a very decision type of fight level, just not anything really sticking out here. Against Garma, who's coming in with a perfect 17-0 record. last beating Mirana in the KSW scene. KSW getting a lot of showcasing fighters as of late, having some UFC level competition in there, beating Norman Park essentially 3 times. The first time he bit the living daylights out of him and won a decision. I feel like he broke Norman Park's finger with his bite. It was really interesting to see it on tape. Park was fucking biting me. He fucking it was nuts. It was really nuts. But came back and won that decision. Then their second fight ended up being a no contest for whatever reason, maybe a draw. And then he last beat Park in a doctor stoppage as of late. But having some other at-level competition, KSW fighters haven't done that bad. Gurmat is as good as Goram everywhere, except he's got a little more of that knockout power. And that's about it. He's shown better gas tank as well, or just able to go up 5 rounds in KSW for at least 3 to 4 of his fights. So we know Gurmat has 5-round cards. He's proven it with good output out there. But this is what I'm going to definitely stay away from. It's a dirty double debut. There's other spots throughout the night. I don't think either guy has the craziest big advantage. I know there's a big favorite for Gurmat here, but I don't think you could be that comfortable on this type of a fight. Give me a decision here. I don't know if I like the finish, even the later I look on, but I'm going to stay away. I'm going to have a big fat stay away, especially as higher prices these debuting fighters are. Who do you think are taking out of these two guys?
I kind of agree with you. For me, I don't know enough about them, and I'm going to go with Gumara by decision. I think maybe he could handle him everywhere. It looks like he has a belt on his shoulder in the image. That's got to mean something somewhere. And everybody has him as a favorite. You picked him as well. I don't know anything about him, so I'm going to stay away from this fight, but I'm going to go with the favorite here. This is my first favorite of the day, maybe. No Jillian Roberts,
Definitely.
too.
Well, yeah, I think as we're saying here, the stay away is going to be in play for sure. 8,900 for the decided 295 favorite against the plus 200, 7,300 Guram here. Don't stack. I mean, if you think the finish is really likely in the first or second round, go for it. But I feel like definitely a decision. There's other spots, and one of them is going to be right around the corner. That is going to be our headlining preliminary card now that we had a couple fights fall out. That's before we get into the main card. And I feel like there's many other fights that deserve that spot other than the double debut there. Those guys should be opening up the card, honestly. So weird how that lands. Weird we'll see what the production does later on. But anything in between getting in this main card or getting over this undercard, getting into this main card?
No, it's time for the Fight Pick Championships. Are you ready for the Fight Pick Championships? Fight Pick Championships.
Reigning mini belt holder for the week. You got Adzul tonight, if you're following, coming in with a big 70-point win tie. With the number one corn fanatic in there, Jimmy T, coming in toothless, but still holding up a hard 70 points as far as the Fight Pick Championships. Only 100 points away from that number one spot. But hey, we're coming for you, the big pink weenie. We know you listening. Absolutely know you listening. There ain't no doubt about that. The cream always rises to the top. Just so you know.
Does that mean Jimmy T's gonna win?
You guys getting that cream core in there? Hopefully not. Hopefully LaTB, also gonna be formerly known as LaTB Fight Guys, gonna be getting in there probably in season 3 and showing what it's all about. So this is definitely
That's
a
how
way
I want
to
to say Fight Guys. Like, have you on the movie Boomerang? How the guy's like, I got the mushrooms inside my jacket. I got the mushrooms on my belt. You got to coordinate. You got to coordinate. That's how I want the Fight Guys to be said. Fight Geist.
Fight Guys.
Fight Geist.
So that's the way we're gonna be doing it around here. The main card opens up with a fight of the night contender here. We got Thomas Alameda coming in against short notice replacement Jonathan Pedro Martinez. I know he goes by Dragon, but he also goes by Pedro if you know where he's coming out of that different breed, Jim. MMA, the 12-3 fighters coming off of a big win to Frankie Zanes, the evil one himself, evil twin, trying to sway you off of this fighter. But Martinez has got the goods. Been watching tape on him ever since he came in. That Ewell split decision is absolutely garbage. Go back and watch that. Even Ewell's like, I won that fight. Okay. That left body kick for Martinez is his moneymaker. He's a southpaw, throws it well, but he also throws that intercepting knee well, which we called for that Frankie Zanes fights. We thought with those takedowns coming in, it was going to play a factor in here. But Jonathan Martinez also coming in with some really crisp strict boss there. I made this connection in my head right now. I don't know if I believe it so much, but I want to say he's very Darren Tillish as far as picking his shots. He'll throw a flurry of 5 and 6 punches when he sees you hurt in there, but he's a very 2 and 3 punch, exits with the kick really well, and that's why we really see him accentuate that left body kick. On the ground, we haven't seen much of him, but we don't have to worry about that against Thomas Alameda. Thomas Alameda coming in with a 20-3 record, coming off a 3-year hiatus, essentially. I think it's 2 years, 9 months, 2 years, 8 months since he last lost to Rob Font TKO. Prior to that, losing to Jimmy Rivera, getting a win over Morales, but losing to Cody Garbrandt, where we had Garbrandt here on LaTB. If you've been listening that long, I remember picking Garbrandt in that and saying, and you quoting me on this and saying, straight punches beat looping punches. This was the fight that we talked about it. And it's Alameda. He's a very shoot box style of fighter, and that's a very looping left hook, looping right hand, stay in the pocket, crack, because he just feels that he's going to land his shot first harder. And if he gets hit on the way, that's okay, because he can usually withstand it. But as we've seen with that shoot style later on in their careers, they don't tend to fare so well. And at 29 years old, that's why I started to fade Alameda against Font even, was that chin. Alameda, even though he has a ton of power and loves the brawl, he's a fan favorite in there because he gets dirty. He really gets hurt in his fights. And when he gets hurt, he doesn't do well. He's a really good front runner. If Alameda hurts you and he can swarm on you, he's as deadly as they come. But that's Vanderlei Silva. Vanderlei Silva isn't a comeback fighter. Vanderlei Silva is somebody who hurts you and then swarms you for the highlight finish. So Alameda, to me, is a much in line with that archetype. On the ground, we don't have to worry. Both of these guys will shoot some single legs in there, but I feel like this really turns into a striking type of a bout here. I'm really surprised that coming off of this layoff, coming off of these last performances as of late, the 29-year-old's actually becoming the favorite in here in Alameda. The same reason I picked Cody Garbrandt as I'm going to pick Martinez here. He's a straighter puncher out of both of these fighters. He stays in the pocket much tighter and is a much more clinical type of methodical fighter. I've also liked the chin of Martinez. I've seen it checked a little more often than I like, but the fact that Martinez has been able to come out from those and not be flatlined, where Alameda's nose I've seen turn, and then he crumples into himself and allows the knockout to happen. Martinez stays in there. So I actually got my first under the dog of the night. I thought he was honestly going to be the favorite.
Under the
Give
dog.
Give me Martinez here, the Dragon, Pedro himself, plus 135. I'm going to be cashing more on Martinez as it comes along. I think we got a real top 10er in here. Alameda has got fights to win, but I don't think they're at this level. Give me the short notice replacement a week and a half out from the fight, because Alameda was going to fight a completely different opponent in, who was he training for here? I had it earlier in the week. I got it here. Come on, Alameda. Interesting. They don't have it. Yeah, I know it fell out about a week and a half ago, but they don't have it on Tapology. So who do you think you're going to be taking in this bout and why?
I think Alameda's overrated and Martinez is underrated. I'm surprised that everybody's sleeping. I don't know how many fights I feel like I could say the same thing about Martinez. I don't know if I've ever picked against him. I just think I agree with everything that you said about him. I like his skill set. I think he's getting better and better. He's a young guy that we're actually watching improve in there. I think that Alameda comes in with tons of power. It throws in the first round. He loses it and loses the cardio battle here. I think Martinez is going to pick more selective shots. And like you're saying, I like the way Martinez wears damage so much more than Alameda. Alameda is a guy like Cody Garbrandt that he wears his emotions on his sleeves too much inside the octagon to me. And I don't like that. So I feel like I've seen like Alameda hit a cap for now, unless he changes something drastically about his game. But I like Martinez. He's a sleeper for the division. So give me Martinez for that dirty D 29-28 decision.
So you got a decision. I'm going inside the distance on this one. I think this, again, fight of the night potential here. And I feel like where we've been calling on LaTB here, we've been telling you guys, watch out for these specific ones. The tape's good on these guys. Like, this is stylistically made to be a really fun engagement through both of these guys. On DraftKings, 8,200 for the slight favorite. Alameda against Martinez is 8,000 even. The official lines -135, Alameda plus 115. So the line is shrinking on Martinez. This is going to be an even fight. So if you can get money in on Martinez, if you like that side, go ahead and pick it now. 8-2. I mean, I got to have exposure to both. Going to be lopsided exposure. I'm going to have like 50% Martinez, 10% Alameda, because I got to respect some of those blind power shots that he throws. But it's going to be, who am I kidding? It's going to be like 70% Martinez, 10% Alameda. But that's the level of exposure. I like the inside the distance for these guys. I do think that they're live by the sword, die by the sword. These guys don't like to go to the decision. They like to finish fights. So fun one ahead of us on that. Then we have another fun one in here at 170 pounds with Claudio Silva coming in against the James Krause. And if you're talking about fighters we love here, Jonathan Martinez is one of them, but the James Krause is another. If you don't know the backstory of James Krause, he is a man amongst men, adopting his younger sister, coming up, just being a man's man, getting it done, owning a gym, being a head coach. Some stuff that we don't tend to like here at LaTB, because D. James Krause has multiple jobs on top of being a professional fighter. I pick him in his.
You don't like it. I don't mind it.
I don't like it.
And it depends on the job. If they have a physical job, I'm all on board.
Right. So V. James Krause here is more being the manager, gym owner, and head coach for multiple other UFC fighters, which he's actually coaching to a lot of wins. James Krause and that Glory MMA gym has a lot of up-and-coming talent that actually looks really good. The thing is, though, is that I feel like James Krause is exceeding at managing his gym and fighters more than his career. Not that he's a fighter that I don't like to bet on, because I do. I've picked James Krause in pretty much every single one of his fights, and it's worked out most of the time. He did get a loss in his last fight, but it was on 24-hour notice, up a weight class at 185 against Trevin Giles. The thing is,
literally just because he was already cleared, because he was there being somebody's cornerman. Yeah.
Literally, he did not have a training camp. And for this one, I mean, he had 7 days, 8 days. So, hey, that's 7 more days than he had for his last one. So I guess that's got to say for something. But he's going to make the weight. He's going to get down there. He's a big 170 pounder there at 6'2". But James Krause shows more than serviceable striking power. He can knock guys out, but on the ground, he's a at-level black belt, where Claudio Silva does his best work. The 14-1 fighter is on a 13-fight winning streak, never losing in the UFC, but he's been in the UFC for 6 years and only fought 5 times, having multiple year layoffs, 5-year layoffs in between fights. He does have a win over Leon Edwards, but that was 6 years ago. That's a very different Leon Edwards there. Leon Edwards actually taking the most out of that loss, realizing he had to get his ground game up to par after that fight. Beating Taleb submission, beating Roberts submission, and Cole Williams. Cole Williams, definitely probably not that UFC scene, but Taleb and Roberts, going back and watching that Roberts fight, I bet Roberts as well a year ago. Roberts winning everywhere, but in literally the last seconds of that fight, getting that submission. I feel like we're going to say this later on in the night, but Silva is a submission or bust type of guy. Striking wise, at 38 years old, he hasn't progressed. He uses his strikes to get to the takedown, but once he can't take you down, he really struggles. Gas tank has been abysmal his entire career. And the fact that he has enough strength to even get some of these submissions is just mind boggling. Going back and watching the tape, he is a multiple degree level black belt, so he can't do that. But against James Krause here, he's shown more than enough submission defense. He's an at-level black belt as well, and I think he has a takedown defense and by far the better striker here, to where even if it gets to the ground, I think it just grinds out to a little bit of a decision. But the guy, even on short notice, I wanted to say decision, but I think I'm talking myself into a third round type of knockout. Krause, even though he's gassing, I feel like Silva's never at this weight had a good gas tank. So give me these James Krause, but you probably already knew that. Give me round 3, TKO minus 185 favorite. Who do you think you're going to be taking out of these two fighters?
Oof, I agree with that too, but James Krause in the last fight, 24 hours notice compared to a week, doesn't give me a ton of time that he's worked on his gas tank, and he looked like shit, and he got to keep all his weight on. So I don't imagine him looking great at the end of this and having that steam to knock out Silva. I do think he can maintain wrist control when he needs to get out of any position. I do think Krause wins everywhere on the feet. I think he's going to be smart enough to not kind of play the game on the ground, and I think he can have all the defensive moves needed to not get into anything super dangerous and get back to his feet. So I could see the knockout coming. It would just be more early, and Claudio Silva takes a little more of a beating than that. He's one of those guys that can be a punching bag for 2 full rounds and get that submission like you're saying. Give me Krause by 29-28 decision. I think the way I see Silva getting around is just by having control for like 3 or 4 minutes of a round, that it's a boring, stifled round. But I think that's where he blows his wad, going for something that he can't get.
I totally agree with that. I see a lot of that, but I'm thinking that striking comes through for Krause eventually. On DraftKings, 8,500 for the decided favorite against Silva, 7,700. I like Krause in that 30-40% range, probably more in that 60% range due to the lack of cards that I'm going to be having over the weekend. But I do feel more comfortable out of Krause because even if it's a decision, his output is much higher striking wise. So, yeah, it's going to be Krause or nothing for here. I don't like Silva in this spot, but I've never liked Silva, so maybe I'm biased because I feel like I had to fade Silva, and he just keeps proving me wrong nonstop here. So
I have 2 conspiracies, and one of them's concerning the next fighter, but I'll only give you one. Do you want my conspiracy that Michael Jackson's QAnon, or that Jimmy the Brute Crute started the coronavirus?
I'm going to go with the Crute. Give me the Crute for 200.
Okay. I'm just saying that there may be a lab in Wuhan, China that has a similar logo as the tattoo on Jimmy the Crute's chest. I'll leave it there. But I know this is LaTB, but it's also the Fight Geist.
Definitely in there. At 205, we have a marquee matchup with Modesta Bukauskas coming in against Jimmy the Brute Crute. The 11-1 fighters had a lot of hype behind them, getting a lot more here, beating Lord Omelianchuk in a submission 7 months ago. Prior to that, losing to Shurkinov in a submission, Peruvian necktie, but really showing that gas tank a little bit for Crute. Once he gets pushed into that third round, it definitely starts to slow down a little bit, but showing that his striking is definitely building, coming out of that Greco-Swede style out there. Crute knows that he got to get into the ground. He has great Kimura series, side arm series, even front headlock chokes. It's just been that gas tank. Again, in that third round against that level competition, we've started to see him wear a little bit, but it's because he's constantly swinging to get into that clinch, to get it to the ground. And Shurkinov was able to use those takedowns to neutralize and wear on that gas tank, where Bukauskas here tends to like to be a striker. 11-2 fighter coming out of Lithuania. I know he has training out of Chantes Combate, but I feel like he was actually over at Jackson Wink for a bit. Went to the States and did a little bit of traveling. Beating Michailidis in a TKO retirement in between rounds 2 months ago. I don't know if he's UFC level caliber in there, but Jimmy Crute definitely is UFC level. But I think Jimmy Crute has to get it to the ground. Striking Bukauskas has his best potential to get this win, but it'd probably be in that third round. But I think Crute wears on that gas tank over Bukauskas more than long enough to turn this into like a third round submission type of potential. And that's where I'm going to be going. I do think it's a little steep here at minus 350 though, for this young of a fighter, for both of these guys being so young. But I do like inside the distance more than that straight up line. But give me the Brute Crute here for a finish via submission. What do you guys think is going to happen? Have an evil twin raid the chat over here with his omniscient presence over here. What do you think you're taking in this profile fight?
Ugh. Yeah, go Evil Twin. What do you think?
Well, I caught half of that slanderous jargon, and I'll say it's been like 2 weeks, 2 consecutive weeks of straight up murder. Carlos Condit coming through. What up? Straight
Not
up.
a murder. Not a murder.
Buckley coming through.
That was
Dukakis coming through. You're welcome. Shut up. That's what I said.
He's a douche.
I made straight cash money all day the last 2 weeks. Y'all be dogging me. Y'all think that the funk ain't real. Well, I'm here to tell you it is. I had a little bit of a slip up. I was trying to throw Emmanuel off his game by giving him bogus freaking predictions to mine, and it bit me, and that's cool. Back on track, over 80% on my picks last 2 weeks. Can't hate.
Bellator just started back up, just so you guys know.
Oh, dude, I don't stack a damn. I'll admit, when Tapology, when I was new to it, sure, I'm just an MMA fan.
Get to the damn fight. Nobody cares about your damn picks.
You already have them. I already sent you my damn picks. Oh, that's right, because I unlinked them. So anybody that's watching this garbage can go directly to Tapology, find me, and mine are not hidden. I stopped with this trying to post them, this and that. I don't even care. You want winning picks? Go to my page on Tap. Look them up. They're there for the taking. Boom. Done. Under Tapology, I am Moco. M-O-C-O, like that stuff right around Emmanuel's nose right there. Moco. What up? As far as the Jimmy Crute pick that you're going with, I've been back and forth, but I got Crute stopping it in the first. The more I'm looking, it's just not there. I'm sure you guys have already talked about the fight falling off with Serial, and it looks like you only got 2 more bouts. So I'm not going to go big into it because, honestly, this card is not the greatest. I know Emmanuel and I have already gone back and forth on some of the stuff previous to this. I'm not sure where he landed. So I'll leave you that, Cheney. Go ahead and give your 2 cents on the Crute pick. But I'm going first round TKO Crute.
Yeah, I'm going to go first round submission. I see him hurting him on the feet a little bit, and then going for like a stand-up choke of some sort. Jimmy Crute's nasty. I do like the way he's also improved his game every time out. Yeah, I like Bukauskas. He doesn't show me enough yet as with UFC caliber dudes.
It's just a funny name to read.
Bukauskas.
So on DraftKings, you're going to pay $9,000 even for Brute Crute against Bukauskas' $7,200. I feel like we're all feeling like 9,000 is more than fair for Crute. He's going to be one of the guys you're going to want to pay up for on the night. And yeah, I feel, I'm not going to go super, super heavy throughout the night, but I do feel like I like Crute for the finish or inside the distance if you're one type of place. But the co-main event at 125 pounds, we have Jessica Andrade coming in against Caitlyn Chukagian. This co-main event was up because of that falling out we had with Gagne there. But this is going to be Jessica Andrade's first showing at 125 pounds. She fought at 135. She fought at 115. She's just going to round out her career, make that 125 round here. Andrade coming in, being the much stronger fighter physically, always being outsized by every single one of her opponents at 5'1". The 20-8 fighters coming off a 2-fight losing streak to Zhang and Rose Namajunas in a split decision 3 months ago. But I feel like Andrade really showed in that last fight against Rose that she still has 5-round cardio. She still is able to get hit and move forward. Zhang finished her early, but she's not looking to be punchy at all whatsoever. So she's a swarmer. She's very John Lineker-esque, uses her striking to get you down even to the ground. She'll shoot the more takedowns on top, just kind of swarm you, but she's very flat-footed. She does eat a lot of shots, and stylistically, her worst opponents are at-range fighters, which is Caitlyn Chukagian. She is a Keon fiend. She's out there with Holly Holm, staying at distance, throwing leg kicks, hitting that pad in front of her opponent nonstop, just having a ton of output, but really only landing half of it, not having tons of power. She has landed a couple more takedowns as of late and had middling takedown defense, last beating Shevchenko on the ground, losing to Shevchenko prior to that, but beating Maya Jojo Calderwood, losing to Ai in a split decision. What I don't like as of late for Chukagian is that
Her nickname?
she hasn't. True, the blonde fighter is a pretty rough one. But she recently started talking to the press in Abu Dhabi that she's looking to round up her career if she doesn't go on a run here soon. And she's looking to have kids and actually change her entire career. She's ready to move on at 31 years old from fighting. So, again, anytime we hear any fighters saying anything like that at all whatsoever, it's a big red flag. Chukagian saying she maybe has only like 3 or 4 fights, depending on whether they're title contenders or not. So here, I feel like Chukagian's starting to realize that she's never going to get a belt. She's probably now she has to face nothing but murderers, and Andrade is going to be someone to stay in her face. But stylistically, again, this is tailor-made for Chukagian to stay on the outside and win a controversial split decision. But I do think that Andrade is able to finally corner her and even get a couple takedowns, maybe one land or 2 hard punches. But I feel like this turns into kind of a boring one. I got a 29-28 type of a decision for Andrade in a co-main event. I feel like this one's going to be pretty hesitant as far as the betting lines go for me. It's a close one on the betting lines as well. What do you guys think is going to happen in this one?
I feel like I'm crazy, but I like Caitlyn Chukagian in this fight. I think she's so much longer, and her kicks are so much longer that she can kind of keep Jessica Andrade at distance a little bit. Her ground game's gotten a little better. I know we watched like what Shevchenko did, but that's so different than Jessica Andrade. She's just not to that caliber. And I think that it's like that nasty knockout to KK is... she just got pieced apart by Jessica Andrade. Tisha Torres isn't the same Tisha Torres. I think Tisha's game's gotten better, that she's gone back to her kicks than back then. I don't know. I've just kind of lost faith in Andrade over the years. So her moving up in weight because she doesn't have any fights to win at 115 is kind of weird to me, where I feel like Caitlyn has kind of been like getting everything in line. I even like the camp she's at. Isn't she with like Frankie Edgar and those dudes? Or
I feel like she's in that area. I can't think of her specific training partners off the top of my head though.
Oh, I'm gonna. By sheer math, I have to agree with one of you, but I disagree with both of your calls. I absolutely think that this is a great move for Jessica Andrade to go up to 125. She has been able to show in both weight classes that she carries her physical strength. She clearly goes for a grappling-based attack. Chukagian's losses are coming on people that out-grapple her. That being said, Chukagian also, to even compare her to Holly Holmes, is insulting to Holly Holmes. She is like a half-breed of a Jessica Paige Van Zandt type of a striker. But Chukagian's one of her biggest deals is she gets put up against the fence way too easily against a shorter, stouter fighter that is the worst place to be. I agree that she does kia and she uses her kicks, but Andrade is going to look to close the distance, and Chukagian doesn't have the power to hurt her on her way in. That I believe. You could always catch a knee, sure, but Chukagian isn't that. She throws the straight kicks. She throws traditionally kickboxing. She's not really an all-around Muay Thai striker. So that being said, I got Andrade putting her to sleep via submission or tapping her in the first round, pushing her up against the fence, dragging her down, and getting that choke, getting that arm, getting that leg, forcing the tap, because Andrade is going to try to muscle her like she does everybody else. And I haven't seen Chukagian have the physical strength to outmuscle a lot of girls. She out-techniques some, but it's still not the same level as a Holly Holmes. That's why I'm giving her like a Jessica I, Paige Van Sant hybrid. That's as best as I can give Chukagian. That's not a top 5 person.
Definitely on DraftKings, you're going to end up paying $8,400 for Andrade against Chukagian, $7,800. I'm leaning with the evil twin here a little bit. If there's a fighter I'm going to pay for 8-4, I do feel like Andrade has a much higher point potential than if Chukagian wins in a decision. Be a 55-point average, so at 7-8, still not going to be worth it for me. Where Andrade could score 100 if it's a first round, I think it might end up turning into, as I'm saying, a decision. But I still think Andrade has much more advances on the ground, especially if she gets those takedowns, as Evil Twin's predicting. But I don't think it's crazy. The Chukagian line, I think that she has a avenue of decision boring fight. Wouldn't be the funnest for the fans, but it is an option.
It definitely wouldn't be the funnest that Chukagian wins, but I don't think they ever are.
Absolutely right. She's never won a fight of the night, ever. You can bet on that. You can bet on that. So another one you might be able to bet on throughout the night is the main event. We finally got there. At 145 pounds, we got a stylistic clash of supposed titans here with Brian T-City Ortega coming in against Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie here. The 16-5 fighter, Korean Zombie, is a long-time fighter. If you've been watching for a while, you remember the WEC days. You remember Twister ever. You remember those highlight fight of the year contenders against Torres and Leonard, and I mean the 2 years he had to take off for the service. But Chan Sung Jung coming in, revitalizing his career, realizing that he has to get finishes in order to make himself relevant. Even though he is a high-level black belt on the ground, he understands that his striking is what's going to get him to that next level as far as a fan favorite. And if you want to see any testament to that, watch his loss against Yair, a fight that he won all 5 rounds, 10-8 essentially, and then got knocked out and was just, super apologetic at the end of it. It was just like, I'm sorry to my fans that he let him down. So really love the warrior spirit. Last coming in on a 2-fight winning streak, beating Moicano in a round 1 TKO and Frankie Edgar. The Korean Zombie showed developing striking level. Really, that ground game that he was notoriously known for and that solid chin has just kind of transferred over. At 33 years old, he's still young. But, I mean, we saw him when he was like 21, 22. So he's been in the game for a long, long time, but he's just finally hitting his stride here. On the ground, I think that he could even submit Ortega, even though that's Ortega's specialty. But striking, there is such a gap in level of striking here. It's going to be almost Max Holloway level-ish. Here, Chan Sung Jung is just not as volume, even though he throws a shit ton of volume. He just has so much more power that if he lands half of the amount that Max Holloway did, Ortega won't be able to withstand it. I mean, Ortega coming off of the biggest loss of his career, his first loss ever to Max Holloway, having a strike record completed on his face. Go back and watch that a year, 10 months ago. Max Holloway showing Ortega, hey, you got to cover this or you're going to get hit in the face. I mean, Ortega didn't only have that happen in that bout, though. He's had multiple other fights that he's won against who was it? Cub Swanson and Moicano in there, and even Clay Guida. Clay Guida won the first 2 rounds. If you go back and watch that fight, Clay Guida outstruck Ortega. Ortega moves forward and just goes for the clinch, goes for the jumping guillotines, will go for the ankle, has not a good takedown. Maybe he's worked on it, but his striking is just very volume oriented, but not much power, and it's not smart selection. It's just kind of spams at you. Where against Chan Sung Jung, he'll counter that. So I feel like that it's submission or bust for Ortega, and here I feel like Chan Sung Jung to land way too much. And Ortega for me is a bit brittle. I feel like in even the fights he's won, he's had to have multiple surgeries. Not only did he have his EPO bust because of his recovery from his knees, but he's had his hands have been ruined in his last fight. If you didn't watch, he got all sorts of pins taken out of there, which has held him up a lot. But he's just a guy that even in a win comes out hurting for a while. And Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, is not the guy that can be brittle against. He's someone who will eat everything and counter it twice as hard. So I think it's a TKO round number 2. I was going to go round number 3, but I think Brian Ortega just can't eat those shots. And once he can't get the takedowns, or once Jung gets back up off of the ground, Ortega's just going to kind of be like, all right, I need to fight top 15 guys, top 20 guys, maybe not these top 3 guys. But I got Jung TKO round number 2. Who do you think you guys are going to be taking in this main event?
I like everything that you said. I think it's like Brian Ortega doesn't have quit to me once he's inside the octagon. He's a guy that since the Max Holloway beating has been kind of a head case to me outside the octagon. But once he's in there, he doesn't have quit. He's one of those guys that can be a punching bag. Like, didn't his corner, weren't we all like, throw in the towel? Like, he wouldn't quit. He didn't have the quit. I think Korean Zombie is a guy with no quit in there too. The difference being is I don't see, like you're saying, Brian Ortega laying the volume as the fight goes on. I think his best chance is a flash submission at the beginning, but I think the Korean Zombie knows all about that shit. He has good takedown defense. He's going to keep it on the feet everywhere that he can. I see it being like 4 rounds to 1. I have it Korean Zombie decision. I don't think he's going to lay the kind of brutality at that Max Holloway. We've seen him go into those long rounds with people, like even in like the 3-round fight with Yair, where you're just like, gosh, this is so brutal. I think it'll be kind of one of those style fights. Like, that's what Korean Zombie is known to do. As the power wears away, kind of, he can just keep laying the numbers down. So I don't know. I think this is going to be the fight of the night. I think it could definitely be one of a fight of the year potential. I'm hoping Brian Ortega comes out and, you know, he was putting some decent hands together before the Max Holloway fight. There was a Brian Ortega that, like, things were looking like they were working out for him in that way. Like, his ground game was on fleek, and so he was starting to work on his hands, and it was coming together. Knocking out Frankie Edgar was no, you know, walkthrough. But the Max Holloway really put him to shame. It looked like there's levels to this. But I agree with you. I think Korean Zombie's one of those dudes that has that crisp striking, can take a beating. I don't know, killer cardio. I love him. Korean Zombie's one of my favorite fighters, so it could be a total biased pick. But I got Korean Zombie.
All right. Well, I guess it's unanimous, everybody. Korean Zombie all the way around. I'll keep it short because Emmanuel used up way too much of my time. Jesus, that was drawn out. But for everything you guys are saying, I'm a fan of T-City, and I like what he's done up to this point. But Korean Zombie has been in there with the best. He has that natural ability to transfer power, and it doesn't look. Some people just have it. They just have power. Korean Zombie has it. It doesn't look like he throws with much emphasis. It doesn't look like he turns on punches. But every time he hits a guy, they know they've been hit. And it's just like the physical strength. Some people just got it, they don't, or speed. Korean Zombie has that ability to turn out your lights with something that should relatively just be deflected or kind of phased out. That being said, Ortega, I I don't think is going to be able to withstand that, and I don't think he quits. That's why I think Korean Zombie puts him away TKO in the 4th round.
On DraftKings, the decided favorite, minus 190 as far as the odds are concerned right now, 8,600 for Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, against Brian Ortega, 7,600. You were saying, Cheney, a bit about the head case of Ortega. How do both of you guys feel about the entire Park, Jonghyun Park, the K-pop star manager slapping of the face in the bathroom right before all this COVID
I don't know
hit?
about any of this.
So T-City Ortega, the translator for Chan Sung Jung, his manager, a K-pop star in Korea, ended up, K-Park, I think is his name, K-Pac, going to pee during fight card, a pay-per-view. Brian Ortega followed him into the bathroom and slapped him, and security had to break him up. He didn't slap Chan Sung Jung, he slapped his manager. That's some head case type shit. Like, go after Chan Sung Jung. He translated. He's like, I don't like what he translated. And he's like, well, he didn't say it. The zombie said it. Why are you going after his manager, you idiot?
Don't kill the messenger.
Right.
You know what though? T-City, like I said, I'm a fan, but that's some what is it, 209 or 509 or whatever the hell the Diaz brothers. Those guys aren't known for their intelligence, and by all means, he is a disciple, and he mirrors that fighting style. Hit me 10 times more and wear yourself out, and then I'll put up volume against you. That is Ortega's fight style. That is a Diaz disciple. Awesome, great, but they're not known for writing books.
No, I like the knockout. I do like the ladder knockout if I see it coming. Like late 3, 4, 5, if I see it. Because Brian Ortega doesn't have quit. He'll be a punching bag for 15 minutes.
Diaz. That's a Diaz.
Yeah.
Sure. But definitely much more finish potential out of the Diaz brothers is Ortega. But here at 8,600, compared to most other lines that we've seen throughout the night, over 9,000, 5-round fight, I don't necessarily... Well, is this a stackable? Because we're saying Ortega has volume. But
yes, absolutely.
I think so too. Korean Zombie doesn't mind getting hit and rolling with a couple of punches.
8,600 is not expensive enough, so I like Jung a lot here. I'm going to be in 70% range, but I like that other 20% to be filled with Ortega potentially as well, if not stacked, as you guys are saying, for those extra rounds and output.
Any other weird underdogs on the night, Twin?
Oh, I honestly, you talked about it a little bit, at least his manager, but I am feeling John Phillips versus Jonghyun Park. He's a plus 200 favorite. I know Phillips is susceptible to the ground game and has been beat in that scenario. But he went at least 2 rounds with what is that? Chimaev. He only landed 1 punch, but he went 2 rounds. Hold on, sorry, the dog sees a squirrel outside.
Oh, it's all good. But he actually landed 2, but it's 2 more strikes than any other opponent in the UFC for Phillips.
So, and really, it's more of a fade on Park. I have not been a fan of any of his fights. I don't know that he has the best fight IQ, and he has not a great gas tank. So more than anything, I'm fading Park, and I think Phillips has a potential there for an upset at a plus 200. It's a stab, but I definitely feel like there's something there. As far as underdogs go for the whole night, that's the only one that stands out. Oh, wait, there is one more. Emmanuel and I argued about this one previous to the show. So I'm not sure who he decided with, because he has this weird thing where he switches his picks come fight day after we talked. Okay. But you know I got to go with my boy Thomas Alameda. What's up? He is the favorite. But Emmanuel was dead set on Martinez, and it's a pick'em fight. It's a minus 120 to a minus 110. That's a pick'em. There's no. I mean, there's minimal, but I'm going with Almeida because Almeida comes out, swings hard, doesn't back up. He's willing to go out on his shield. This is to me the biggest step that Martinez has had in his career. Mm-hmm. The only guys that have put away Thomas Almeida are champions, flat out. Only guys that can put him away. The guys that can meet him with speed and power. Martinez arguably has some of the power. He doesn't have the speed to contest with Almeida, and he doesn't have the power of a Cody Garbrandt that can put Almeida away. So I think Martinez is about to his way to victory through that bout is a decision, but I think Almeida 100% rushes him and puts it away. Almeida's been out of the picture for a little bit, and he's game. And for that reason, I think there's a great value play on Almeida. I'm definitely putting him on DraftKings all over the place because he's worth it.
Brittle Almeida. I think Cheney went with Almeida as well.
No. I pretty much have all underdogs though. I have so many underdogs.
I'm still on Martinez. I have not same as against his previous opponents. I like what Martinez is doing in there. So Brittle Almeida. We'll see. That's the fun thing about the fights is we'll definitely get to brag when it's all said and done. See who comes through. But that's actually that's one of the fights I feel like is fight of the night potential because it is really close and both of those guys come in with a fun stylistic matchup.
A banger.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Anything left with the evil one?
No, the other ones are a lot of they're working on it. We know we got Khabib in there. He's the not Khabib, excuse me, Nurmagomedov's cousin, Khabib's cousin, but nothing else that really jumped out that's like, got to. I think the Almeida and the Martinez is actually one of my favorite bouts on the card, opposed to Silva versus Kraus. I'm going Kraus. He's taking it on short notice. That one should be fun because Kraus is so game and just
I like Kraus
tactician / coach. Yep, but I don't know. I think definitely the most one I'm eager for is Almeida Martinez, and then it goes T City versus Zombie.
Oh, really? I feel like Zombie Ortega is the best, and then the second is Martinez Almeida. I really like that main event.
The main event's good. The thing is, as far as finishing goes, I just see Almeida blitzing him, and he either gets put away or does some putting away. Either way, he's gonna get
put away. Oh, you better believe he's gonna get put away. You better believe that. You better believe.
And next week, Evil Twin, if you want to come for a little more time, if you can plan it for a little more time, because that card is disgusting.
Oh, you guys do it on a Wednesday, and I'll set time aside Tuesday and Thursday. We got the coach status on. We're coaching, so it is what it is. I'll be making them run laps if they screw up. But anyways, for this weekend, it's a lackluster. It's better than 2 weeks ago, but it's definitely not last week. Last week's card was on point. Absolutely loved it. Made all the right calls, made all the right cash. Emmanuel keeps saying that he came up with that. He even tried telling me he picked Buckley.
No, I never said I picked Buckley.
I have text messages where you're like, oh, yeah, Buckley's got a live dog. I'm like, I told you Buckley was all of it the whole time.
Yeah, he's still a live dog. Doesn't mean I picked him. I tell you, I picked.
You faded him, and then you turned around and said, no, he's a live dog. Get out of here. Either you're with him or you're not.
No. That is not. Styles make fights.
Someone just start calling you Ariel Hawani. Boom.
Thank you. That's a compliment. That's a compliment.
Ariel Hawani's a douche.
The nose.
Dude, if you want nobody to make a pick, if you want to play both sides of the field, I don't even know why you're in the pick game. You don't. That's not predicting. Get out of here. Go be a freaking. Oh man, forget you and Lucas. Lucas Fury. You and that guy. Boom. You're that guy too. What's up? We're gonna call you Emmanuel
dated reference there. So that's not gonna work for most of our fans,
hardcores.
Unfortunately. Yeah, they're not gonna pick that one up. That's a more dated than you care to think. Years are going by quicker than you think there, bro. So you're definitely showing it in the chins region. So anything left?
You suck. Later.
God, still don't know how he weasels his way in one of the worst segments of the show.
It'll be fun with the fight, guys. I am actually going to work at getting the board figured out so that we can have the drop music for everyone. Yeah, we need to work on some kind of intro, even if it's just something kooky we put together. We can't record our old video games. Or what about if it's just you like or if I do that part and then you scream "Fight guys!"
Oh, fight guys!
Yeah, what if it's just me and you?
Feel like a Die Antwood song. Feel like it'd be a Die Antwood. That guy does a lot of that.
Or what if we get a few different people to say it? Like we'll have a kid say something. We'll have your brother be like, "This show's shit."
So that one. Are you going to watch any Bellator on this Thursday evening?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Cyborg's coming in, main eventing it there, being a huge favorite. Bandejas is coming in. I don't know. I don't know any other names. Why we usually don't talk about Bellator, but it's definitely going to be an interesting 11 card bout. I feel like it's just an appetizer for next weekend. The pay-per-view is on board, and it might be pay worthy, dare I say, for that next one coming up. What do you think?
It might have to be, but as far as the gov is concerned, it's always pay worthy.
Absolutely, always.
But
always.
I don't know. That Israel stream was on lock. It was on lock. I don't know. There's a lot of good fucking cards on it. I'm gonna have to rearrange my life around that.
Quite a few fun fights on there. Definitely co-main event. Looking all sorts of sexy in there. Kutalaba Ankalaev for the 8th time is booked on that. So we'll get there eventually. We got a weekend ahead of us, so we got to Fight Pick Championships. You know where to be finding us at Zol Tonight, at Weakneck Baby, at LaTB MMA. Also going to be known as the Fight Nights.
Yep, we'll be the Fight Guys. And I'm Conspiracy Chicken. You can find me everywhere as that. I think I'm even Cheney Conspiracy Chicken on the Twitch. And we have been spending a lot more time over on Twitch. And we keep telling you old fogies to download it. And stop pretending it's hard. We know you got the Hulu and the Amazon and the Netflix and the HBO Go and the ABC Me. I don't even know if that's real. Disney. You can't just download Twitch.
Think of all the revenue we're going to get from all those shout outs. That's going to be awesome.
Well, you can follow a whole community. You can follow a whole community of other people on there, and you can get their garbage picks. So, yeah.
Ricky showing some love in the chat, by the way. Talking about Bellator, don't talk about Bellator. That's the best way to talk about Bellator.
Where are the standings right now with the Fight Pick Championship?
Let's see where the damage is done. Cheney, I need a crash course in conspiracy theories is what Ricky in the chat is specifically.
Anything you need, you bring it up. I got you.
Asking for you right now. How do you feel about 2-second crash course while I look up these stats?
2-second crash course. You have to tell me what conspiracy you want to talk about. The one I've been working on today is what if Michael Jackson faked his own death and was really a rescuer of children.
Not a horrible one. I mean, that's for the better good.
I know. That was my fun one that I'm like, because I follow every single conspiracy. It doesn't mean I believe it, but I like to follow it and see what people have the haps going on. And a lot of people that are into QAnon conspiracy, they think JFK Jr. is alive and that he's QAnon. So I just am like, what if Michael Jackson's QAnon?
It's a good one to set out there. As probable as anything else.
I could send you 10 frames of pictures that you'd be like, Huh. Very
You can tell me 10
interesting.
Loch Ness monsters. And I'd be like,
interesting.
there may be a Loch Ness monster.
It's funny you say Loch Ness because there's a whole story of the Nazis actually had a house they were at Loch Ness. They did like a bunch of weird experiments there, all at Loch Ness. But yeah,
that doesn't seem unrealistic.
And people say they were all involved in kooky, crazy cloning and all sorts of experiments. So what if there actually was a Loch Ness monster, but it was something that was created?
As plausible as anything, for sure.
Yeah, but we have to have a specific conspiracy to break down, and I'll get as serious as you want about it.
So, you want me to come up with one right now?
If Ricky actually said, he said a 2-minute course in conspiracy. Yeah, like I was gonna. Depends.
Well, that's a good one. I think we got him with. But I did look up the numbers here. In first place, as we were saying earlier, we had Jimmy T and the Big E over here getting 70 points in first place. Jacob Ethan at 65,
Did
tied
Jimmy
with
T
Evan Montgomery
put
and
his
Jamie.
name first, and then you?
I think so.
Okay.
I think he did. Just saying. Conspiracy. Look into that conspiracy. So Cheney tying for second as well, and Alpha with Jay Jeezer in third. But the overall standings, we got Alpha in first place at 520, Ricky MMA at 485, Grampy back and tying with him. MMA Marks at 450 and fourth, Evan Montgomery 440, Jimmy T 405 tied with the Big E at 405, and Cheney coming in eighth at 395. 100 points separates us all. You can score 100 points in a Fight Pick Championship. We got 70 last week. It's just whether the Alpha stumbles and doesn't get that pick in.
Or if anyone. I know it's I have been trying to repost to the thick people the link because it's the same link every week, everyone. I notice people wait for the link to come out, and it's like there's a good chance it's probably just check it. You could just click on it, and it might be updated. You can tell because the fight card's right there. It's like, do you want to go into this fight card? So this is all inside info, inside pool for the Fight Pick Championships. But for all of our fans, they know it's part of the game. We ain't slipping. I know, but this is the one part that I did. We do only have a couple more weeks for mini belt season.
I know like this.
I know it makes me think like if you win 3 mini belts, can you trade them in for a big belt?
I like that idea. I absolutely like that. We'll have to see running by the commission here. We got Ricky, by the way, talking about your conspiracies. He says, yes, you can trade it in for a big belt eventually. We'll see where that stands. The commission being in on the chat here. I love aliens, is Ricky saying, and I can't wait until the stumbles. So guess we'll see.
The stumbles in the Fight Pick Championship. I would like to get into aliens too, and actually on the Idiocalypse I was thinking I want somebody that's nerded out on space and aliens and different planets, and like it's been a long time since I geeked out on those topics, like space.
Yeah, those are fun ones.
So NASA's such a nerdy, like a sham that it's hard to geek out on space, but there's still so much fun stuff about space. I like the fake moon idea, the artificial moon.
Yes. Are you leading me?
Oh, I thought you already knew so much of it. Like, I like the idea.
I absolutely do.
I know. So I know you always play dumb. I was just like, oh, I like the artificial moon idea. I figured you were going to be like, yeah, that's a cool one, and maybe add to it.
Yeah, no, that's dope as hell. Look into it. Just give me that Eddie Bravo gif. I'm never like, nah, bro. I'm always like, what? I like to keep myself informed. What's that?
What conspiracies do you believe in?
Oh, there's too many. Too many.
What conspiracies do you believe in that aren't already debunked as conspiracies? What will you go on record and put yourself out there and say, that's bullshit, that's bullshit?
JFK was assassinated. Boom. By the government. It was an inside job. as 9/11. I'll agree with both of those. I don't even feel bad about saying those. Like, the government had something to do with both of those. So pick which one you want to chastise me for, but that's the beginning. If you want to get a ghost and a werewolves and all sorts of demon stuff, you come down to your boys as well. But that's for a different podcast, a different time.
Hey,
we're just
this
trying to
is
make
the fight, guys. We can get weird.
Absolutely, we can get weird for sure.
Okay,
for sure. But
quick. I think it's a perfect way to end and bring it all back. Do you believe in any zombie conspiracies?
yes, absolutely plausible. Not only is there multiple zombie drugs with scopolamine that has been tried in with a lot of even aboriginals and I know fugu, the pufferfish poison, has been used to catatonize, and even there's a zombie pickle where if you keep feeding these people pickle or a zucchini with a certain treatment and you don't give them any salt, that they'll be essentially your zombies.
They'll get dilly hard.
Absolutely, they'll get their dilly hards in there. So yes, zombies are plausible. Brain eaters, that has to be, China has to come out with a really good virus for that to happen, but I don't think that one happens naturally. Brain eaters is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I think there is people that are suggestible.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
It's reality is stranger than fiction. People
What
say,
happens
and
if you eat brain though? If you eat human brain, what do you get?
Kunduru?
Kuru. I know it's a
Kuru? Where is
Kuru.
that? Yeah, a brain disease.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Not good. Oh, mad cows. Do you know what mad cow disease is? Kunguru. It's because they're feeding them their own damn brains.
Yeah, you can't feed a species its own self, or they'll get the roo.
Exactly, it's not good.
Okay.
So
see, that was a good way to bring it all around to Korean zombie again, and
Korean zombie, get it done.
Yeah. So all love out there. You guys be safe. As always, thanks for listening.
Let me. Oh my goodness.